Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel with myself, Isabella. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, click that subscribe button so you never miss another video. My name's Isabella. I'm a graduate of the Veganova Ballet Academy. I then went on to dance with the Mikhailsky Ballet and Eiffel Ballet before I founded BWI. BWI is an online learning platform from beginner to pro where we have classes, courses, live classes with me online and other trainers, plans so you know exactly what you're going to do for specific goals, and bespoke plans. So if you have some specific goals in mind and some time limited goals, we can help you with that by putting together a very bespoke plan. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in and something you need in your life, then use BWI as your secret weapon to excellence and click that link in my description. You get 2 weeks to trial BWI for free. So let's get started. Right guys, today we're going to be talking about how to break in your pointe shoes. So for those that are new here, those that don't know necessarily what pointe shoes I like to use, they are ready-made and bespoke block for me specifically. Originally my shoemaker was Bob Martin, and he gave his business to Block, which is obviously a very reputable brand. My shoes are made in Australia now by Block, but still custom made. So exactly the same customization. Although they look like Block shoes, they are on a specific Bob Martin last. They're much more handmade than most of the Block shoes, which are factory made. So with my shoes, they're a single X. So they're quite narrow at the back, but slightly wider at the front. I also have a bit more of a tapered vamp. So the vamp, as you can see, is a little wide at the front, and then it comes in a little bit like that. Then what he's also done is he's made the heel at the back have a little bit more fabric, so that because you can see, look, if I put it up where the sole is, there's actually quite a lot of heel there. Look, you can see it goes up and there's much more fabric. That's so the heel is higher up, because I found that sometimes if there wasn't a little bit more fabric there, it would come down a little bit too much on my heel, rub, and then also be more susceptible to falling off, which we don't want. So with that, it kind of really helps it stay nice and tall and on the ankle. And then from there, we've also got on the block itself, it's quite a large block. So I'm tall, you see, so it's very hard to balance on a very small surface area. So this way we've got a nice big flat surface area. The angle of the block itself is not a strict 90 degrees. It's actually at 110 degrees. And what that does is, and I specifically wanted that, especially when I was in Russia, because all the studios are sloped. And so by having it just 110, you could say it slightly pulled me back. Not enough to be noticeable, but just literally by 10 degrees, it would pull me back a little bit. And that way I would be really over the shoe as I want to be, right over the shoe, but then I wouldn't be so over that I'd fall over. So by slightly holding me backwards, I'd be then nice and straight. Now, we're here today to talk about how to break in your shoes. For me, there's a basic process. Today, we're not necessarily talking about sewing, we're just talking about literally breaking them in. Now, for those that don't know, what we don't do is just literally put them on and off we go. There's a process. So despite them being and having so many specifications to them, that's just some of them. I've also got slightly higher vamp. I've got a little bit more support in the arch area. And down here is a little bit less paste, so that when I break the shoe, it can pop a little bit. And the demi pointe then is also more pliable and easier to use. Because if there was too much paste down here, or as much paste as there was up here, it would be very hard for me to use the demi pointe. And therefore, it becomes, when a shoe is like that, it becomes very hard, no pun intended, and go do a solo that requires a lot of jumps, say. That would require me, and I've definitely had those shoes which are more factory made and really solid as a rock, and it requires me to like do pointe specific classes in them, pas de deux classes, anything to break them down. And so I wanted a shoe that was a bit more pliable, and especially as I became a professional, and more advanced in my footwork and stronger in my footwork, I wanted a shoe where I was able to more so put it on and then do straight away. We've got our shoes. Let's talk about the process. So the very first thing I'm going to do, and what I would do, is step on the shoes. So I would step on the very front of the shoes to relax this area, which often you can do with your feet, and you don't want to be afraid to really kind of step on them and make that happen, because you'll find once you've stepped on it, because initially they can feel super tight, especially when you have your padding in there, they can feel very tight. So the first thing you want to do is step on the shoes and relax this area, because this is the most painful area. We want to kind of widen it a little bit. That's also why your shoemaker has to be, and your pointe shoe fitter has to be very skilled, because obviously in the shop you're putting on brand new shoes that have not been messed with, and we can't mess with them in the shop unless we bought them. And so you need to identify, and so does the person fitting you, that although they might feel a bit tight in the shop, when you take them home, they will spread out, especially when you stand on them. Whereas if you buy a shoe that when you put it on brand new and you haven't stepped on it at all, and it's actually a little bit roomy and there's lots of room in there, then it's likely when they break in and when you sweat, they'll stretch a little bit, and when you step on them, they'll stretch, that they'll be too big, and then you'll have to add in even more padding, which again is not super ideal. What we want to do is have a slight sensation of they are very snug. You want them to be super duper snug in there, almost a little bit tight, because they will spread out. What you don't want, I mean, this isn't a fitting video, but what you don't want is when you put them on, it to be either super loose, when you put them on like too easy. You want a little bit of wriggling to happen, because essentially the more room there is, the more friction there will be, the more likely you are to injure yourself and also get blisters, which we don't want. So you want it to be super snug so that the shoe is very at one with your foot. It's very much an extension of your foot, and it moves with your foot rather than separate to your foot. So the first thing we're going to do is step on the shoe. So you can also do this with your hand as well. So you're going to do that a little bit. So even with my hand, I'm just pushing down on it and breaking and widening the front of the box. So already compared to the other one, if you can see, this is the one I've just messed with. It's already a little bit wider than this one, right? Because I've stepped on it. And so I'm going to have a little bit more room. Now, as you may have heard, this area has popped a little bit. So it's popped a little bit, which has given me a lot more movement in the demi-pointe. So that's popped out. Then I'm going to peel this down and peel it away, because also what we want to do is get a bit more flexibility in the sole, right? Now you can see at the back there's a different color, and that is where I have some additional sole support there. So I've got a bit of arch support there. Then from there, I'm just going to actually bend that top of the shoe like that, because what I want to happen, so I've done that, which is nice. So already, look, I haven't actually stepped in the shoe, but as you can see, it's curved nicely at the top, right? So that way, that's going to go snugly into the top of my foot, and down here is going to be nice and straight, holding that support. So what I don't want to happen is for this to break, so that when I go on pointe, I kind of knuckle. So we want nice support of the shoe. What we don't want is that knuckling feeling like that, where you feel like you're kind of sinking and sitting in the shoe. You want a nice long foot in the shoe, and then slight curving into the ankle there. Then we'll get this really nice support. That's as much as I'm going to do at this stage. Then there's the whole sewing process, where we'll take off the satin, potentially darn the shoes and sew the shoes. We have a little bit of how I do that on my Stronger Pointe course. If you would like a cute little sewing tutorial of how to put the shoes together, let me know. Definitely we can do that. Then it comes to now continuing the breaking in process. Let's say they've sewn, and then it's like, what do we do now? So in order to make your shoes last a lot longer, the best thing to do is to steam your shoes, steam them, put them on, and put socks over the top. So wear them. Don't do anything else other than walk around the house in them. Because what can happen is, we want to make them last as long as possible. You broke them in, you've put them on, and then you may find that because you haven't allowed them to fully mold to your foot, when you walk around the house, you go into your ballet class, you do your échappés, and then they've broken within 15 minutes, which is a lot of money and a lot of time spent on trying to make them the perfect shoe, only for them to die within 10 minutes. So let's try to make them last. What we're going to do is we'll boil the kettle. Obviously, be careful of your hand. Never put your hand over steam. Seems obvious, but it can happen. Hold the bottom of the shoe, and let's say the kettle's boiling on top. You place this part of the shoe over the top of the kettle, over it and release, over it and release, just as the kettle's steaming, over and release. So now it's going to be like nice and warm in there. It won't be scalding. Obviously, wait till the steam's dissipated. It'll just be kind of moist and a little bit damp. Then, with your padding on, you put the shoe on. You put your sock over the top to keep them clean. Then all you're going to do, you tie your ribbons, because you got your ribbons on already. Then you're just going to walk around the house in them and allow the shoe to dry and allow the shoe to taper more to your foot. Along with this, we spray with water the top of the shoe. So it's going to get nice and damp here. You spray it. So again, it shrinks a little bit to your foot. And all this is allowing it to get more and more tapered to you and your foot. Then from there, we finished that. They've dried. Then from there, we're going to get some jet glue. And you can buy jet glue online at hardware stores or at ballet stores. Obviously at ballet shops, they're probably a bit overpriced. Glue is generally cheap, so I recommend getting it online. Fun fact, Block used to stock jet glue. Then they stopped stocking it before they came up with their own branded jet glue. And I could only find the same brand in Chicago from this hardware store. So I used to ship in jet glue from Chicago all the way to London, about 20 bottles, which already is really strange, like shipping glue, but it was literally my life purpose. Like, I need to get this glue. It's so important, especially with my archy feet. Then from there, I would take that to Russia. So that glue went all around the world. It came from Chicago to London, then in my suitcase, London to Russia. Then I would use it there with all my shoes. Then what I would do is glue the very areas that, generally speaking, go soft first. So I would glue the inside. You just gotta be careful with your eyes that you don't get it in your eyes, because it really hurts. So you're looking down, and then you just quickly go around the edges, a few drops, and then swivel it around. The great thing about jet glue is you don't need to dry it for hours. So sometimes I'd have a rehearsal in the afternoon and I'd be like, oh, my shoes are dying. But you get this glue and then we're fine. Then I'd go down the sides of the arch here, down the sides of the arch. And it usually has a nice straight nozzle. So I'd do the arch and I go down the sides of the arch as well. Then I'd also do it on the back of the shoe. I'd avoid getting the satin because you don't want it to be slippery. But I, with the nozzle, go into the edges and do the outside. So although initially the shoes may be quite hard, it would really stop them breaking in quickly and breaking quickly. So they would last a lot longer. I would say the key part of breaking in the shoes is widening the front, stepping on them, and doing that steam, because then they really taper towards your foot. Now, the final moment and the final thing about breaking the shoes is the noise. Now, let's say you've got to wear your shoes and you've got to put them on. You've got to go on stage immediately. It's very loud. And we often get told off if the shoes are too loud, especially when you go on stage. So we've got to bang the shoes. Now, you may have seen many funny Instagram videos of people like Isabella Boylston banging her shoes on the wall. Hilarious. We've got to do that to really get the noise out. So bash that shoe as hard as possible to get the noise out. And it sounds funny, but it literally what you're doing is, what's happening there is you're softening the base of the pointe shoe. So where the toe is, the bottom, you're softening that. So it's not so hard and it's going to be softer. And therefore, when you land from jumps, the noise will be a little bit quieter and not as stern. So it's important to bash that out, especially if you don't have time to break them down in class. We just got to do it then in our preparation. That is how I like to break in my shoes. A bit of a simple process, but the main process for me and the important one is putting that steam on, putting the socks on and allowing them to taper to my feet along with the jet glue. Super important. Therefore, your shoes are going to last a hell of a lot longer. I hope you found this helpful. Do let me know if you want me to do any more point shoe chats about anything specific, and I certainly will. So I'll speak to you very, very soon. Keep dancing, protect those toes, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Students of Australia, we know London is far away. For the first time, BWI is coming to Australia and making an intensive with a difference just for you. Introducing the BWI Ballet Lab Australia. Prepare to really be taught in detail. The corrections and feedback you've always wanted. 2 levels for juniors and senior students. In-depth lessons, detailed training, personal feedback, mentoring, confidence building, advance your technical and artistic skills. The Ballet Lab is designed to be a safe space. No competition, no competitiveness with others. It's a chance for you to experiment, try new things, make mistakes, and improve and become a better and smarter dancer. We want you to really feel like you can unlock your potential with us. I can't wait to work with you in the studio. Grab your spot, let's get going.